He was standing at the top floor of his glass-walled office, overlooking the vast city that glittered below like a sea of moving stars, when his heart stopped cold. For a man who had faced boardroom wars, billion-dollar collapses, and the silent emptiness of losing everything money couldn't buy, nothing had ever hit him like this. Down in the courtyard, among the laborers carrying tools and boxes, he saw her, or at least, he thought he did. The girl wiped sweat from her forehead, adjusted her dusty cap, and for a fleeting second looked up toward the building. Her face, those same eyes, the same delicate chin, the same gentle sadness, it was her. His daughter, the one he had buried 10 years ago. Before we go deeper into this emotional journey, if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and the miracle of second chances, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who believes in hope, and subscribe to Royal Stories, because what you're about to hear might just remind you that love never truly dies. For a long moment, Richard Kane couldn't breathe. The world blurred around him. The bustling office, the endless ringing of phones, the city outside. Everything faded into a heavy silence as his gaze locked on that one fragile figure below. His daughter, Lily, had vanished in a car crash when she was just 16. The wreck had been burned beyond recognition, and all that was left was a pendant with her initials, LK. The grief had torn him apart. He had poured his entire fortune into charities, foundations, and hospitals, trying to fill the void, but nothing ever did. And now, a decade later, a worker, a young woman with oil stains on her hands and a faint scar near her eyebrow, had just shattered his world all over again. He rushed downstairs, ignoring the calls of his assistants. His polished shoes hit the marble floor as he darted through the lobby. By the time he reached the construction area, his heart was pounding like a drum in his chest. The workers turned to look. No one expected the city's most powerful man to walk among them. He scanned every face. She was gone. The girl had vanished among the crowd. For hours he searched the site, asking foremen, supervisors, anyone who might have seen her. No one knew her name. One worker said she was new, hired just a week ago. Another said she came early, left early, quiet, barely spoke to anyone. Strange girl, someone muttered. She always stares at the big glass tower like she's seen a ghost. That night, Richard couldn't sleep. He sat in his study surrounded by the faint scent of his daughter's old perfume, still lingering on her piano bench. Every tick of the clock felt like an accusation. He pulled out the one remaining photo he had of Lily, her smiling, wind in her hair, eyes full of dreams. Could it really be her? No, he told himself. It wasn't possible, but the image of that girl's face kept replaying in his mind, haunting, impossible, familiar. The next morning, he returned to the site. Hours passed. The midday sun burned overhead. Then, at the far end, he saw her again, crouched by a pile of bricks, wiping her forehead, her cap tilted low. He called out her name, softly at first, then louder. The girl looked up, startled. And that was when he saw it, her eyes, wide, innocent, confused. The same sea blue shade he thought he'd never see again. She froze too, as if she'd seen a ghost. Richard's voice trembled as he asked her name. Elena, she whispered. Elena Moore. She looked barely 20. There was something guarded in her tone, something that told him she'd lived a hard life. He thanked her and left, but that name meant nothing to him. Still, something inside refused to let go. He began investigating quietly. Through his connections, he found that Elena had been in foster care since she was a child, moving from one home to another. No parents on record, no real history before age 8. That night, a storm broke over the city, and Richard sat in the dark, watching rain lash the glass walls. He remembered the night of Lily's accident, the police knocking on his door, the storm outside, the feeling that his entire world had ended. What if the girl in the car hadn't been his daughter? What if the records had been wrong? A spark of dangerous hope flickered inside him. Over the next weeks, he began visiting the site daily, always finding reasons to pass by, just to see Elena. She worked tirelessly, carrying heavy tools, helping older workers, always quiet, always humble. Once, he saw her share her lunch with a stray dog that followed her around. Another time, she stood staring at the piano shop across the street, tears glistening in her eyes. That was when Richard knew he couldn't ignore this anymore. He approached her again, gently, offering her a job at one of his company's offices, a cleaner's position, he said, something easier, safer. She hesitated but eventually accepted. Days turned into weeks. Richard watched her move through the hallways, her laughter soft, her manner kind, her small habits, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear, the way she hummed under her breath, all of it mirrored his lost child. His heart ached every time he saw her. It was both torture and healing at once. Then one afternoon, he invited her to his mansion, under the pretext of helping with an event. She looked nervous as she stepped inside, her boots dusty, her clothes simple. As she walked through the grand foyer, she stopped in front of a portrait. Richard froze. It was Lily's portrait. Elena's lips parted, her hand trembling as she touched the frame. "Who is she?" she asked softly, her voice cracked like a memory trying to surface. Richard couldn't answer. Later that night, she knocked on his door. Her face was pale, eyes red. "I keep seeing this place," she whispered. "In my dreams. Since I was a kid." Her voice broke. "I remember music. A piano. A man calling me, Pumpkin. But I don't know why." Richard felt his knees weaken. His hands shook as he reached for her. "Lily," he whispered, tears filling his eyes. She didn't answer. She just broke down crying. The next morning, he arranged for DNA testing. Those few days of waiting felt like a lifetime. He barely slept, barely ate. When the results arrived, his hands trembled as he opened the envelope. Positive match. 99.98%. His daughter was alive. She had survived. But when he found her again to tell her, she was gone. Her locker at the office was empty. No one knew where she went. She had disappeared. On his desk, she'd left a letter. Inside, in shaky handwriting, she wrote, "I don't know who I am. I don't remember what happened. But I'm afraid. I don't deserve this life, or your kindness. Maybe someday, when I'm ready to remember, I'll come home." The following months were torture. Richard searched every city, every orphanage, every record. Nothing. But one day, nearly a year later, as he was driving through a small coastal town, he saw a familiar figure standing by the pier, feeding seagulls. The wind caught her hair, and she turned. It was her. This time, she smiled. "Dad," she said quietly, and he broke down, sobbing as he held her. They sat together on the old pier as the sun dipped below the horizon, waves whispering softly beneath them. She told him she'd remembered fragments. A crash, a stranger who'd pulled her from the wreck, the years lost in hospitals and foster care. But none of that mattered now. They were together again, two souls healed by the miracle of time and love. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who still believes in miracles, and subscribe to Royal Stories. Because sometimes, love finds its way back, no matter how lost it seems. Speech balloon special request. Before you go, tell us in the comments. What would you do if someone from your past suddenly came back into your life after years of believing they were gone forever?